Okay, we are live with Dr. Michelle Mazur. I'm so excited to have Dr. Michelle with us today, especially because she talks about messaging. That's what she does. And I'm obsessed with messaging in your business. So tell everyone all about you and what you do if they haven't met you before.
Yeah, so I am a messaging strategist and I really focus on, I have a framework called the three word rebellion, which is really creating that like core message you want to be known for. Like, think start with why, 5 second rule, and then building out all of the messaging around that. So that's all of my one on one work, helping people figure out what their marketing message is and how to translate that into their business and their marketing and their copy. So that's one part of the business. The second part is I have created a new community offer called the Expert Up Club, which is all about helping expert business owners get known and hired for their work. Because what I have seen in the marketplace is typically the person who is best for a client to hire is passed over and overlooked in favor of the people who have like the flashy marketing, because experts aren't the type of people who sit around and think about, oh, how can I promote myself? How can I market? How can I communicate? They really just want to be like doing the work of their expertise and helping their clients. So I'm like, how can we get experts known and hired for their work? And that's why I have created this club that's going to work on people's I call it your minimum viable, meaningful message, and then translate that into a marketing strategy and a marketing plan. So you're actually doing less marketing more effectively, and then having that community piece, because I feel like, if you like, this, you just did a huge that's that wonderful behind the launch summit. Like, you need other people in order to grow your audience and get in front of new people. So I really wanted to create that space where other experts could find each other and collaborate. So that's what I am up to right now.
I love it. And I resonate so much with your message because I'm definitely not the loudest, or I think a lot of people feel that way. Like, not the
Yeah.
loudest, not the most. I was just talking about this on a podcast today. Like, I'm a mom, I'm a 45-year-old mom who's not the loudest, not the smartest, not the, not the most extroverted, and really figuring out like, and I agree with you that sometimes it can feel like, people will choose, or I almost feel like it's sometimes like the most, like you're in high school again, a tiny bit. There's like a touch
Yes.
of it where you feel like you're not quite that like most popular girl in high school. And this is why I love what you're doing with the Expert Up Club, because you're actually just showing those people like you don't have to be that rowdy cheerleader to make it in your business, and it shouldn't be a requirement.
Yeah, but it so often feels like it is. And so
Mm-hmm.
often the people who are great at marketing aren't necessarily the ones that are great at delivering results. And that, I think that harms the industry overall, because I feel like if we can get experts known for their work, it can really fundamentally change online business for the better, because the people who are the best for a job are actually the people who are getting booked for it.
Right. And I know we're going to get into this a little
Yeah.
bit because you took the pre-launch plan program, and this is some of the
Yes.
stuff we talked about inside. But I also think to what you said about the people who are really good at what they do aren't necessarily the best marketers. And this is why we see again, where people feel like they're getting burned, is because they've been
Yes.
marketed into a program, but when they actually, or into even a one-on-one service provider, but the results on the other side don't hold up to that
Mm-hmm.
overall marketing, the message. And then it
Yes.
becomes, and that's where the industry starts seeing the, I've been burned so much before, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because, yeah, we're oftentimes so overpromised. Like, you see promises like add 6 figures to your business this year, which is an actual promise I've seen. But then you get in the program and you realize, like, oh, I'm not going to actually get that. Like, there's no way I'm going to get that. And so it's like, they've been oversold and overpromised and then underdelivered, and they feel like, oh my gosh, I spent all my money on this thing that didn't work. And then we, the people who actually get people results, have to do all that repair work so that they can trust you again, which kind of sucks for us, quite frankly. Like, we shouldn't have to do
Right.
that. Like, we should be able to go in and be like, this is how I help you, and this is what we're going to do. And yeah, let's do that thing because you want this type of result. But yeah, all of that has just eroded trust in the industry. So we all have to do a little bit more work these days.
Well, I guess it's an argument, not that I wanted it to be that way, for like doing a pre-launch, right? Because we do
Yes.
have to build and establish this rapport and trust more so than ever.
Yes.
Let's talk about that, because you did take the pre-launch plan program, and people might be like, okay, you're a you know how to market. So what was the thing that made you go like, okay, this is something that I want to do
Yeah.
for your business and for your new, because the reason why you decided to do this was for your new offer, correct?
Yes. And the funny part is, it's like the new offer wasn't quite developed yet when I entered into the expert or into the pre-launch plan, because I was like, I've known for a long time that I wanted to do some type of community offer and gather people and do this work together and support each other. And then I was like, oh God, I'm going to have to launch. And I hate launching. I've had to do it in the past. I mean, I think it's one of the reasons why I stuck with one-on-one work, and I'll always do one-on-one work because I love it. And it keeps me really on the top of my game. But like with one-on-one, you don't have to do like big, massive launches. And I loved, like, I saw like how you were pre-launching. And I've also seen through the years, like how people talk about what it is that's coming up for them in such like a natural way. And I'm like, yeah, I want to do that. So that this doesn't feel so overwhelming. Plus, it's brand new and there's going to be some education that needs to be done. So I was like, yes, I want to figure out what this pre-launch could look like and be able to like implement that so that as I'm building anticipation for what it is I'm offering. So it was like filling that void for me. Because even though, like, yeah, I do messaging and I help people with their marketing, it's always that thing that's really hard to do for yourself.
I agree 100%. It is very hard to do for yourself, and it's hard to not like get like stuck in your head. Wouldn't you agree about like,
Oh yeah, like you can just overthink things to a point where you don't actually put anything out in the world, right? Like, I just want to get this right. It has to be perfect before I put it out there. And it's like, no, it just has to go. And so I just wanted to have like a plan in place so that I could just remind myself, just work the plan, just work the plan, work the plan. And then I know I'm going to be making progress and getting the work out there.
yeah, no, and I love that. And I think that's like such an important component of like inside is like, yeah, you have a plan. So you know
Mhm.
what's coming up, you know what you're going to have to talk about. And I think
Yes.
too, if I remember something that you said in the feedback when I asked about the program too, I believe you kind of, and hopefully I'm remembering correctly, like figuring out how to talk about it for, for weeks on end, if you will, like going
Yeah.
in, how am I going to be bringing this up and not have it feel, I don't know if it was that you thought, I don't remember that part, but can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are two things going on for me. Anytime you put together a new offering, and what I've been really reminded of is like you have to figure out how to talk about it. Like, how do you communicate about this thing that you are doing in a way that's going to be compelling? And I feel like PPP gave me that opportunity to really think about like, how do I want to talk about this thing? And what are the different inroads? Because, yeah, I don't want to be one of those people who it's like, I'm always selling or I'm always like inserting this thing really awkwardly in. It's like, okay, what is that natural progression that makes it easier to talk about the Expert Up Club? Like for me, that was like a big thing. Like, Actually, I just wanted to make it a whole lot easier for myself to figure out like what are all the different ways I can talk about this thing and figure out how to communicate about it. And that's what the program really allowed me to do.
Yeah, no, I love that. And let's talk about like, so in the program, can you tell everyone a little bit about your experience of what it was like, and what you really liked about it?
Yeah, I mean, what I really loved about the program, there was a lot of things. Number one, I love the emphasis on messaging because I also do messaging, and I find it really hard to find other messaging people who actually kind of view messaging in the same way and speak my language. So I felt like you really got messaging in a way that I don't see very other experts, messaging experts do. So just kudos to you. Like, as somebody who's been doing messaging work for businesses for years, like, it's so good to find somebody else where you're like, oh, you actually get this. Like,
And
we're,
can you talk about, let's talk about this a little bit, because like what people who are listening, they might be like, I feel like messaging sometimes is like thrown around, and
yes.
or we're, oh, you got to get your messaging right, but people don't understand fundamentally what their messaging is and how important it is to their business. So can you speak on that a little bit, since this is your area of expertise?
Oh, yeah. Because I feel like a lot of people think like it's a lot of piecemeal approach. Like, oh, your messaging is your elevator pitch or your bio or your content plan or the copy on your website. And I'm like, yeah, that is all your messaging because I really view it as this like comprehensive system where you're leading people from not knowing you at all to being interested in working with you. So they raise their hand and want to like do your next program or jump on a sales conversation. And what I feel like you understand that other people don't is that there are stages. Like there's an unaware stage where you have to really talk to people about meeting them where they are and empathizing with them. And that client research piece is so critical, and getting that voice of the client that you do in the PPP program. Like that's such a critical component. And most people just be like, oh, just do an ideal client avatar, you'll be fine. And it's like, that's not a real human. You can't sell to a fake person. You can only sell to real people. And so that's what for me, I was like, okay, like she gets it. She understands that this needs to be grounded in the voice of the customer. And then you build your message or your pre-launch out from that. And for me, that was like, yep, she knows what she's doing.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I have a quote somewhere. I have a post-it note with a quote from you where you talk about how messaging is basically, hopefully I'm remembering it. It's the argument why people should buy from you, right? Like
Yes.
that is, but that argument is something that's done again and again and again. And that is in the pre-launch, we spend so much time in making sure that I always think of it, I joke around, I wanted to be an attorney for like 1 minute in college, but it's really this argument, like building this case on why people should buy from you and going through the stages to get them there. So
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yes, yes. No, that's always that's the work I do with my client. It's like, yeah, how are you making the best case, the best argument for what it is you're selling so that you're not, I mean, I feel like so many people talk about like content buckets, and I'm like, content buckets are an organizational system. They are not a system of persuasion. So how do
Yeah.
we actually persuade people and make them realize like, oh, this person could actually help me solve a very specific problem?
Yeah, no, I love that. And it's funny, even when I was like a social media manager, I would try and fit everything into these content buckets. And then you wonder, why is my social media not working? I'm doing all of this. And it's exactly what you said, because your content buckets, yeah, you can use it to help organize things, right? Like there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing wrong with it, but it's not, like you said, it's not an argument. It's not a path of why people should purchase from you. So,
Yes,
okay, so I
yes.
cut you off. I know you were going to say some other stuff, but I really wanted to hone in the messaging part because it's such a huge, important component to not just your pre-launch plan, like your overall sales, your business, everything that you do. So,
Yes, yes, yes. So yeah, so I really appreciated that about you. I felt like I also loved how everything was organized. Like it was very actionable. It was easy to take action. Like we'd have one of our training calls and then we were able to take action and then get feedback from you on the homework that we were doing. So all of that was like super helpful and really well structured. I didn't feel like there was so much fluff I've got to listen to and go through and like no, there's none of that. It's like here's what you need to know, here's what you need to do next. Submit your homework by this date. I will give you feedback and we can keep moving forward. And even for me, like I had a fairly major life event happen in the middle of the program where I wasn't able to participate, and I was still able to like plan out some of the emails because you created all of this space. So like when I was able to engage more because life settled down a little bit more, I was able to do some of that work and catch up a little bit so I can make the most of the program. So I really appreciated that as well.
Yeah, and I think you also on some of the feedback talked about how because you hadn't actually developed this program completely when you came in, like that we actually worked together to help you really nail an elevator pitch or get close to it and do the benefits. Can you talk a little bit about that, since the process was you weren't even, this wasn't even something you had launched before?
Yeah, like I didn't like literally I had ideas. Like I was working with another consultant to build the community portion and like what it was going to be all about and the pillars and what was going to be inside of it. So like I just had this vision that I wanted to gather experts to get known and hired for the work. And then we were able, you know, even just based on the client research, able to get into some of like what could the benefits of this be for the person who is a part of this community, what could the elevator pitch, and yeah, like I still use the elevator pitch, like it is on the sales page because I mean I had a I kind of knew what it was going to be, even if it wasn't fully fleshed out. So it helped me get some clarity about what are not get mired down in like the features about like, oh, we're going to have marketing retreats and there's going to be like speed dating so you can meet other business owners. But it was really like, what's the benefit here from being in a community like this? And that was helpful to get me focused just not on building the thing, but really like, what is that thing going to do for people?
Yeah, I love that. And then I think too, being able, and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, and I say this from like even as doing the work for myself, like being able to go back and forth and have like another set of eyes, right? Kind of say like, have you thought about this? Or is this something that they need? And getting those outside perspectives is always beneficial too.
Oh, absolutely. And like I always loved like the copy editing on the emails was really helpful because it gave me like, I mean, I'm a pretty good writer already, but I just felt like you gave me different ways to say things or to structure the email. It was great for brainstorming subject lines. So I just felt like that was super helpful, like getting that really targeted feedback.
Yeah, I love it. It's one of the things that I really love about the program. And I think even in your thing, you said that you felt like you came out a better writer.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that is
Yeah.
like when I read that, I was like, oh my gosh, I love that. Because when you're, like you said, you already felt like you were a good writer. So to come through this program, and that's not even like one of the main benefits, if you will, of this, right? Is like not
No.
only, yeah, that you're going to come out and have this writing. And can you talk a little bit too about how you had, I know because of your life interruption, you weren't able to participate, but did you feel like you came out with like some of the content written and done and ready to go?
Yes, I did. Like I mean, we created the overarching strategy, so I kind of knew what we are going to talk about in the pre-launch. Like that was my first priority of like, all right, I'm dipping my toes back into this. Like, let's get this laid out. And then I started writing some of the emails. And the other thing that I found really helpful is like you have a lot of great frameworks for like the different types of emails you can send. And that even helps you like write your normal emails that you're sending to your list, which is another unexpected side benefit of being in the program. But yeah, like I had some social media posts done. I had like 3 or 4 emails written and ready to go. So even though I wasn't able to participate as fully and get everything done, like I left with a great chunk of the work done.
Yeah. And now you're in your pre-launch.
Yes.
And I'd love to talk about like how it's been going, that you've actually been implementing everything that you got out of the program.
Yeah. So far, like, I mean, I have 8 members right now. My goal is 30. So I feel like for a pre-launch period, that's great, especially for something that has never been offered before.
Right, because your doors haven't opened yet. So
Yeah,
the fact that
like,
you already have 8 people enrolled is amazing. Almost, I mean, it's almost a third full just in your pre-launch.
yes, yeah, which is great. Like, I'm super excited about that. And also, that allows me then to talk about like the types of experts, or I'm finding out things like, wow, the community part is why people are really joining this thing. They want to be around other expert business owners who are all working towards this goal. So I am learning a lot and able to like adjust my launch emails in a way that I wouldn't have been able to if I didn't do a pre-launch. Like, I wouldn't have been like, oh, I need to talk about how this is going to make you more efficient and effective as a marketer so I can get over that time objection that people are having. Or, oh, yeah, community is a huge thing. I should probably send an email about why people are joining for the community and how this community is going to like support them in their business. So yeah, it's really like been eye-opening to see what's been important for people. And if I didn't do the pre-launch, I wouldn't have known that. So yeah, I feel like it's been, and people are kind of excited and anticipating it. So it's been just very nice to like have some of the information out there and then to be like formally launching it and being like, all right, applications are officially open to everyone.
Right. And I love what you're saying here, because the pre-launch is informing your launch at
Mhm.
this point.
Yeah.
And that is what I have seen. And part of the reason why I started to do pre-launch is because this is what I would see when I was a copywriter, is that people would get to their launch and all of a sudden they'd start hearing the things that you're talking about, whether it's an objection that we didn't figure out before the actual launch, or if it was a benefit that we didn't realize we needed to lean into as much. And so by being able to do your pre-launch and by getting people ahead, it's kind of informing, oh, okay, this is what actually needs to be talked about during the launch period, instead of
Mhm.
going ahead and just, having your 8 launch emails written to find out that, oh, I totally missed out on one of these important points.
Yeah, yeah. And I think for me now it's, now that I'm heading into launch, like I have the flexibility to like write some emails that I'm seeing. And also I'm thinking about like the next launch of it and how I can use what I'm doing in the community to create like always, like almost always be pre-launching. Like, how are we going to use like what's in the community to inform what I talk about on the podcast? And how can I bring like people who are in the Expert Up Club like onto the podcast to talk about it? So I'm like already thinking about ways of like, all right, like let's always keep this pre-launch up so that, like it's never a surprise. Like I think that's the big thing. Like your launch shouldn't be a surprise to your community, your email community. It shouldn't be like, oh, and now I'm doing this thing and you have 8 days to decide. It's like, no, I've been talking about this for a month and now you have like, and you knew it was coming and now you get to make the decision.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd love to talk about too, because it's some people like, oh, do I have to do a ton of Instagram in my for this? Or like, can you talk a little bit about how your marketing looks right now in terms of like the channels that you're using the pre-launch plan program, what you learned inside on?
Yes. So, I mean, mainly for me, it's been the podcast and my email community because I'm really just on the founding members launch. I'm focusing on the people I already have, right? So, people I've worked with before. I'm doing a lot of personal outreach as well, like to invite people in who I think would make amazing founding members. And I'm not like a little bit on LinkedIn, but I'm not on like I've pretty much quit Instagram at this point for marketing because I just don't feel like it's effective for me. And it's also a time suck of doom because it takes so long to do the thing, like to market there, and you get uncertain results. So for me, I'm just really focusing on the audience I already have. And I think that's the way to go, especially if you're launching something new. There are people that you've already worked with who've been with you for a while who will want to buy.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And I'm so excited that you've had such a successful pre-launch. If anyone is thinking like, is this something I should invest in? What would you tell them?
I would say yes. Like if
It
you
would be embarrassing if you said no. So I guess I knew you were going to say yes. But can you tell them, like why? Like why is this change your world? Like why would you tell a random stranger like yes, you should? This is something to consider.
Yeah, I think it's because it's giving you a system for pre-launching that's going to make your launch easier. So if you launch all the time and you hate it, or you were like me and didn't launch like something like this community or a group program earlier because you hate launching and the thought of doing it makes you want to poke your eyes out, then I think this pre-launch program can really help you because it can create a lot of ease for the launch. Like you've already been talking about it and informing people about it. And then it's like, okay, when cart open happens or you open up applications, it's not a big surprise. And then people respond. And then when people respond, that builds your confidence that like things are going well. And so it makes it easier to market. So there's just like this snowball effect. So that's what I would say. Like if you have launches in your business and you kind of hate them, like this is a way to make it so much easier for you and like easier on your energy too.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I appreciate you being part of the program and going live with me today. So,
Yeah.
if anyone has any questions, the pre-launch plan program officially opens Wednesday, March 22nd, and you can join already some of the early birds that have come in, and Dr. Michelle, tell people if they're what you've talked about too for the Expert Up Club, if this is something that they're interested in, tell them a little bit where they can get more information.
Yeah, so I'm doing the founding member launch. If you want information on the Expert Up Club, go to expertup.club and it will take you to my super fancy Google Doc that
I
is
love that.
serving as the sales page. Yeah, I was like, I'm not like I have like a well thought out sales page, but I was like, I am not putting this on my website because I know it's going to need to change. So let's just put it in a Google Doc.
Yeah, it's like how can we make it simple? And I think that's a great way to end on too. It's like, okay, yes, it was simple. Yes, are having people come in, you're having people join, but you've been able to do it in a way that doesn't feel, like didn't even have to do a fancy sales page. And I think that's really what it comes down to, right? It's not about the fancy sales pages. It's not about, the fancy Instagram posts. It's about really being able to connect with your perfect person and be able to speak to them, which is all that messaging stuff that we talked about,
Yeah.
in a way that calls them out. And that's what I love about what we both do for our people.
Yes, yes. So yeah, like I loved this program. It was probably one of the most well thought out and designed programs I've ever been a part of. So I can't recommend it enough.
Well, thank you. That a little teary almost. So
Aw.
to hear it was a good experience. So thank you, and thank you everyone for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.